So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services are refined in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then you can understand the time of the end period, Shiach the prophet. We find in a layer of understanding of the 61st chapter, where then you find the spring feast on the top of the chapter, then the autumn feast mentioning of it, and then also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. Then understandably this layer of the 61st lines up with chapter 1:8 regarding then where the first tabernacle service of the second tabernacle services period restoration would be taking place, obviously in the land of Sudan, where then the Israelites then returned to their holy services. So then during this time, where you find then many understandings of the political arenas of the world, you find then a few nations being very active, as then it was explained before, as then the Daniel the 11th chapter, and then a couple of chapters later indicates then the relationship of the east, north, and south. But not only this, then some countries related with the time of the 1,000 years from 1009 to 2009, where then obviously United Kingdom, they joined themselves, but then there is also the system of Europe, where then they have joined up themselves under the same system, and then obviously those are becoming then imbalanced. This then is in line with Daniel and what he explained as far as for a time then the set apart would be mixed up with the world system. But then the cities are returning, and whatsoever was done in the past must be dismantled. As we understand, France went back in a financial crisis, and there was then the article yesterday regarding then the dismantling of the Eurozone starting with France. So very wise, because they understand their system is then obviously not balancing itself and then must be dismantled. With this in mind, we find then also the United Kingdom, the Northern Ireland, visiting China, the Eastern Kingdom, where then you find the very chief of the country visiting with the parliament and initiating then the division of United Kingdom. As we then understand, some time ago there was a referendum for the separation of Scotland, making then obviously themselves separated and having their own. So then we are doing times where then every decision is extremely important in making it properly, because as far as North America, we unfortunately made bad decisions last year. We made decisions this year, they are not very profitable. We find ourselves then trying to recuperate our industry, and thus far we are not going any further. The unemployment is very high yet, and then the worst of these is not understanding very clearly what the new system is like. There are evidences everywhere, however we do not know how to gather this information and understand the time of the end trade. So then, for instance, when the system becomes available the next 36 months, can expect, if we don't do our homework, then obviously ruining our economy, and at the same time then the system becomes downloadable. With this in mind, then you begin your quest understanding first the savings wiped out, invested in the system, and then those countries doing trade with China and stabilizing their economies. Any word against the system renders then the country speaking bad of it in danger. So let's understand what this means. If then the system becomes available in wilt, then if we speak bad of those countries doing trade with the system, we do run the risk of having then our own people coming out of their countries. This means the governing parties involved with the system would obviously say you got 24 hours to get your ships, your aircrafts, and your people outside of our country. So we run this risk. And then because we are heavily indebted, how are we going to get raw materials or rare materials for the new technological time then of production of equipment? We must evaluate these situations because each plan done wrong comes against us. Thus far, then, the Soviet Union found then a spy over there in a very place where the Northern Kingdom then, they are in charge of the BRICS. What a bad way of starting a situation. Understandably, at some point, we must line up our taxation with freighting and becomes then partners in the future. But thus far, we are trying to take over. The time of the takeover by persuasion and then lies and deceit, those times are gone. The new system must be implemented. So then if we persecute each other, we deny each other then of further plans. If we don't do our homework, then the system is ruined. That's why there is then the Ozarks over there, FEMA camps, and then police state. So you have to think of these very cautiously, because any part of it that we don't think while then having these plans comes against us. Because the Messiah said very plainly in the future, he said then the freighters of the earth, those people are in charge. If we can project ourselves in the future, we can simply understand the freighters are in charge. So why don't we then take the time and visit with the freighters and come up with taxation and freighting at the same time? As we understand, Australia is going through a changing of government. So our plan of including then Japan, and they worked so diligently ever since the time of the war. Then we find the plan of Holder going over there in New Zealand didn't work. And then the president going to Central America didn't work. Australia is changing leadership. So those 100 aircrafts and 12 submarines went on the shelf. The Chinese, they have launched this equipment in space. It's already orbiting the Earth with the specific objective of doing trade. So then let's understand what the Messiah has said, because he gave us already the future. Freighting, shipment, parcels, those are the driving forces of the future. If we don't do what we should be doing during this time, then later we can't complain. Because it's real simple for people to get overinflated with importance when the printing machine is working day and night. But printing money goes so far. If there is not a plan lining up of what's coming, then later we can't reverse it. Let's bear in mind, if we talk bad of this system in the future, we are then expelling our own people from their countries.